Lagos is the center of excellence, and one of the driving factors of that is the giant strides made in the area of tax administration. This is a tax talk, and our aim here is to educate you on everything tax related as far as Lagos State is concerned. My name is Oyinlala Sale, and I bid you welcome. Let's move quickly as we familiarize ourselves with the business news making the rounds.
This is business news. As part of activities demonstrating the judicious use of taxpayers' money in Lagos State, the State Governor, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, has launched 15 locally built high-capacity commercial omnibus ferries to provide effective transport mode options for movement within the metropolis. Speaking at the Badore terminal where the event took place, Mr. Sanwo-Olu said that the omnibus ferries, which have the capacity to convey 40 passengers, will, in addition to the existing fleet, enhance accessibility and provide convenience by decongesting the road networks further. While marking the first year of his second term in office, Mr. Sanwo-Olu said that the 15 newly acquired omnibus ferries remain a significant milestone in his administration quest to revolutionize transportation in the state. Mr. Sanwo-Olu said that the initiative is a testament to the government's commitment to creating an integrated, multimodal transportation system that makes daily commuting smoother and more seamless. The Vice President, Kashim Shettima, has said the administration of President Bola Tinubu is focused on revamping the nation's tax system rather than causing Nigerians heavy burden. According to him, the fundamental motive of the administration is not to increase the tax burden on Nigerians, but to improve the efficiency of tax collection. He gave the explanation when he received a delegation from the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria at the Presidential Villa in Abuja recently. Soliciting CITN's insight on attracting foreign direct investment through competitive company tax rate, Senator Shettima said the focus of the President Bola Tinubu administration is not to increase the tax burden on Nigerians, but to improve the efficiency of tax collection. The Vice President stressed the importance of collaborating with the CITN to adopt global best practices in tax administration, pointing out that knowledge is not something you can buy in the market square, but you have to earn it. In his remarks, CITN President Mr. Samuel Agbelu commended the federal government's effort to address the needs of Nigerians, citing the recent suspension of the cybersecurity levy as a prime example. He applauded the administration's initiative, including unifying exchange rates, attracting foreign investment, establishing the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms, as well as deploying monetary policy measures to stabilize the naira, combat inflation, and recapitalize banks. And that's it on Business News.
I will make a start shortless business. They give them 150K to my friends. Let's do this. Taxes? I didn't even think about this. So I'll have to pay tax to build a house in Lagos. Maybe I should take a remote job. That way, I can avoid taxes. But wait though, bloggers and content creators pay taxes too. So tax officials in Lagos monitor digital space for tax payment. Wait, why don't I start importing and exporting of phones and gadgets? Bro, how far now?
Femo, how far?
Bro, I won't join the business where they do.
Oh, smart. You just need money. I hope you have your tax clearance certificate.
Tax? Are you kidding me?
Without it, shishi, you not fit do. You have to visit the nearest tax office.
I can't believe it. There's no way out of this. I have to face my tax obligations if I want to start a life in Lagos.
Dear Lagosians, your taxes enable the government to invest in education, healthcare, security, housing, and many more. By continuing to pay your taxes, you are investing in a brighter future for all. This message is brought to you by the Lagos State Internal Revenue Service, LIRS.
Welcome back from Business News. The next segment is the corporate talk. Today we'll be trashing out tax compliance expectations from employers of labor. Tax deductions, tax remittances, tax obligations, non-compliance and more are all part of what we'll be looking at today. We'll be talking all this from the perspective of employers rather than employees. Mr. Olumuyiwa Adebayo, Chairman Committee of Finance Experts, Nigeria Employers Consultative Association, NECA, joins us as a guest in the studio to table these issues. Mr. Adebayo, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's certainly my pleasure. I'm sure I'll learn quite a bit from you today.
Yes.
What are the primary tax compliance responsibilities expected from employers of labor in Nigeria?
Okay. Companies naturally employ people to work for them, and then the people also are being paid. And from the perspective of the law, okay, the employer have a responsibility with respect to paying them salaries, and also in that regard, you have to more or less deduct taxes from those salaries in line with the provision of the Personal Income Tax Act, Cap P8, Laws of Federation of Nigeria, 2004 as amended. And that's on one side. On the other side, as an organization or as a company, you also have responsibility for other taxes, like withholding tax and the like. And I'm speaking strictly to responsibility for taxes for states and not necessarily talking about taxes in general, since I'm talking from the perspective of LRS, and that's just a position. And with respect to that, you have the first responsibility of registering with the relevant tax authorities. For example, if you only operate in Lagos State, you will have registered with the LRS, okay, as a corporate, to have a corporate ID. And the reason why you are doing that is that you have some responsibilities such as payee deduction, which you have to remit, such as withholding tax deduction relating to individuals that you have contractual agreement with, in which they render service or you make purchases, and you also remit such withholding tax to the state's Internal Revenue Service. In this regard, LRS. And therefore, from that aspect, you also ensure you are compliant with both deduction, remittance, and filing. Those are the primary responsibilities to the state Internal Revenue Service.
And what documentation and record-keeping requirements should employers fulfill to demonstrate tax compliance?
Okay, as an employer, you have the responsibility to maintain a payroll, okay, whether as a schedule, which might be in soft materials, depending on if you make use of ERP system, that's Enterprise Resource Planning System, or what they call accounting software, or payroll software, as the case may be, or at least you have it in a manual form, which means you must document it. And that payroll will document the employees, their place of residence, the amount of emolument, depending on the categories, what reliefs they enjoy, pension deductions and the like, and the amount of tax that is due as payee. Okay, once you do that, that's on one side. The second side of it is that you make remittances to LRS, to bank. You know, there's a platform in which you make such payments from. You keep record your revenue receipts, or what we call your tax receipt. You also keep that record for that purposes. Also, record of document you file on a monthly basis, including your annual returns record that you file, which is from H1 at every year end, on or before 31st of January. You also keep such record. The essence of keeping those records is for future purposes, such as when there's tax audit, because statutorily there's a provision for tax audit. Likewise, if there's any need for reconciliation, probably an employee may come back to say, from my tax record on the system, certain amount is not being shown, or certain amount is missing from my own record. Therefore, you can be able to reconcile that with the relevant tax authority. And for also, as an organization, you keep such a record for a minimum period of 6 years statutorily before it becomes status bar. But in today's world where you harness technology and cloud computing, you can keep it as far as possible.
So tell me, how do employers ensure compliance with tax laws regarding employee benefits, allowances, and fringe benefits?
Okay, I always say that compliance is a culture that you need to embrace, okay? And it's going to be from top to bottom. And once you embrace it, it makes it much more easy. Now, What you need to do to remain compliant is that first, you need to be familiar with the provision of the law. Okay, in this case, when it comes to payroll taxes, it means you must comply strictly with the provision of the Personal Income Tax Act, Cap P8 LFN 2004 as amended. Now, as the case may be in that regard, okay, you need to comply with that law. And to comply with that law means that you are first of all familiar with the law. Secondly, you more or less have deducted amount of tax that is required according to the law. You have equally remitted those amounts in line with the provision of the law, and you have kept record in that regard. Likewise, when it comes to your employees, also your employees' obligation does not stop where you filed your personal the payee that you have deducted. The employee also have the responsibility individually to file in line with the requirement of the law, whether you have other sources of income or not.
Interesting. Can you discuss the implications of non-compliance with tax obligations for employers of labor?
Now, the implication comes in different ways, okay? Let me start from a reputational perspective, okay? Nobody wants to be seen as not being compliant because taxes is your civic responsibility. And therefore, every organization wants to avoid being in all of shame, okay, when it comes to tax. Imagine in the news, okay, you see that a company is being sealed up or is being charged for tax evasion or some other things like that. How does that speak to your investors? How does that speak to your bankers, your customers, and the like? How will people likely want to do business with you? That's one aspect of it. But the other aspect of it is much more provided for in the law, which speaks to the aspect of penalty and interest, okay? Because once you fail to pay appropriate taxes, or once you fail to pay taxes that you have deducted, it then means that by law, if you are caught, one, you pay that taxes, two, you pay penalty, currently at 10%, and three, you still pay interest, which are avoidable costs. And likewise, there are also other sanctions like criminal proceedings. There are also issues where your company might be under lock and key, which might affect your continuity. And most especially, if you are compliant, you'll be able to hold government accountable at every point in time.
There's been no shortage of insights from you on the day's topic, and I know there's still more you'll share. For now, we need to go on a short break.
Thank you very much.
The Tax Talk goes on a break right now. When we return, we resume the discussion with our guest, Mr. Olumuyiwa Adebayo.
Have you had a hard time with taxes and understanding tax administration in Lagos State and the complex nature of Nigerian tax law? Do you know what agency or tier of government collects the various types of taxes? Have you ever found yourself asking any of these questions? Join us for your favorite program, The Tax Talk, your infotainment program.
Every week, for about 25 minutes, we take to the airwaves to update and upgrade your knowledge with regards to tax administration in Lagos. We do this with the aid of experts in the field. Our current conversation is on tax compliance, expectations from employers of labor. We still have Mr. Olumuyiwa Adebayo here with us. Thank you for your patience, sir.
Thank you very much.
What role do employers play in educating employees about their tax obligations and deductions?
Though it's the responsibility of the employer to deduct tax from the salary and make remittances, but it goes beyond that. You also have a responsibility to educate the employees, the reason why such taxes are deducted, the basis to which they are deducted, and also you need to show some level of transparency. By law, you are also required as an employer to provide a pay slip to your employee. Okay, what does a pay slip carry? Apart from other about data with respect to the name, your position, and some other things like that, it carries your emolument broken down into different categories, what are deductions that you have, and what amount of taxes that have been deducted and has been remitted. And the essence of this is that you gather all of these up to the end of the year to make you also aggregate it and file. Because, for example, when you are filing personal income tax, you are not filing on a monthly basis. You are filing on a global basis what income you have earned in that year. And therefore, where do you get such information is from that payslip. Therefore, employer have a responsibility to provide that payslip, whether it's a soft copy, whether it's something that generates automatically to your email and some other things, but you have access to it in order to aid you to filing. Now, apart from that, also the employer now have to educate on how you file. Because, for example, companies have that capacity to engage consultants to assist or have internal tax professionals. But individuals may not have that luxury to engage a consultant to file on their behalf. Okay, what then do? You have to do it on your own. And luckily today, LRS have a tax platform which enable you to easily file whether on your phone or on a laptop. But what you now need as an employer is to provide a guide on how they go about it so that they don't file wrongly. Because the implication is that if you file wrongly, you might have filed and on that show what your position is. And by law, it won't be seen as a mistake. It will be seen as otherwise. Okay? And likewise, you can also overfile, whereby it triggers additional taxes that you don't owe, or because you self-assess yourself. And therefore, you need to provide that guidance as an employer of labor.
Your professional opinion has been very detailed, but I have one final question for you. How do tax compliance efforts by employers contribute to broader government revenue generation and economic development goals?
Okay, we need to know that we all desire from governments enabling environments, social amenities, infrastructure, and the like. Okay, and all of these things can only be done with government having that fund, okay? And one major source of funds or revenue to governments in any part of the world are taxes. Most developed nations earn more from taxes than even from other commodities, okay? But luckily we are blessed with crude oil, and probably that has not made us focus much more on tax revenue until recently when we have challenges. And that speaks to the fact that we as a nation need to also help governments in order to achieve that desired objective. And what does employer have as a responsibility is that your prosperity lies on the prosperity of the nation. One thing companies need to understand is that you can't outgrow your own economy for long, because your prosperity is derived from the economy as a whole. We then speak to the fact that we have a responsibility, collective responsibility, to ensure that we pay the appropriate amount of taxes, whether on behalf of our employees or on behalf of the company or on behalf of third-party vendors, where we deduct withholding taxes and remit appropriately. Because all of this will provide government with those resources, which gives infrastructure, which gives education, which gives basic healthcare and some other things like that. And all what that culminates to at the end of the day is enabling environment, which will make companies prosper more, which will even make us more productive. And at the end of the day, we'll be exporting more. And what does that bring? It brings foreign receipt. At the end of the day, we enjoy what other developed countries enjoy. And before we know, with a matter of time, similar to Singapore, Dubai, China, and the likes, we also move away from the third world country, away from developing nation to a developed nation within a matter of time.
It's been a full barrage of questions, and you've been more than a superb teacher today. Thank you for allowing us to pick your brain.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, and thanks to LRS.
Oh, it's certainly our pleasure. Chairman Committee of Finance Experts, Nigeria Employers Consultative Association, NECA, Mr. Olumuyiwa Adebayo, has shared his time and thoughts with us on tax compliance, expectations from employers of labor. And I hope it's been beneficial to you. We continue with our lineup on the Tax Talk once we get back from this interlude.
Have you make a start shortlist business? They give them 150K to my friends. Let's do this. Taxes? I didn't even think about this. So I'll have to pay tax to build a house in Lagos. Maybe I should take a remote job. That way, I can avoid taxes. But wait, bloggers and content creators pay taxes too. So tax officials in Lagos monitor digital space for tax payment. Wait, why don't I start importing and exporting of phones and gadgets? Bro, how far now?
Femo, how far?
Bro, I won't join the business where they do.
Oh, smart. You just need money. I hope you have your tax clearance certificate.
Tax? Are you kidding me?
Without it, shishi, you no fit do. You have to visit the nearest tax office.
I can't believe it. There's no way out of this. I have to face my tax obligations if I want to start a life in Lagos.
Dear Lagosians, your taxes enable the government to invest in education, healthcare, security, housing, and many more. By continuing to pay your taxes, you are investing in a brighter future for all. This message is brought to you by the Lagos State Internal Revenue Service, LIRS.
You're still with me on the Tax Talk. Let's take a peep into LIRS Diary.
Louisa.
Good afternoon, Honorable Committee Chairman and members of the Committee on Finance of the esteemed Lagos State House of Assembly. It is with great pleasure and honor that I welcome you to LIRS. Your visit today underscores the importance of collaboration and cordial working relationship between the agency and the Committee on Finance in driving our state's economic growth and fiscal stability.
Everything with a beginning obviously comes to an end. This is the point where I express my thanks for your company and say my goodbyes. I'll be back with you next week on the same station. I am Oyinlala Sale. Have a great day.